The only negative on it, Candice, is that as the designer of the game, fans seem to have a particular relish for killing the designer in the game. So I have to. I like playing with the optional player versus player rule, and I just need to not do that anymore.
Because they're all
So
crushing you, huh?
I think so, right? There's this like joy, this fundamental joy in
I beat
saying,
the designer.
"You see that guy's name on the box? Yeah, killed him."
Welcome to Cardboard Creations, where we discuss the process, techniques, and inspiration for designing board games. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and I am super duper excited to be here today with Scott DeMers to find out how Dragons Down was created. But first, let's jump into a brief overview of how it works. Dragons Down is a sandbox-style adventure game inspired by the classic game Magic Realm, and it can be played solo, cooperatively, or competitively. 1 to 4 players take on the role of adventurers, exploring a Western fantasy world on a quest to become a legend. During the game, players explore the realm, search for treasure sites and hidden paths, prepare magic, hide from monsters and other players, and more. By slaying monsters, looting epic treasures, completing quests, or even hunting down fellow adventurers, players accumulate fame and fortune. Although a winner is crowned for collecting the most fame and retiring or dying, ultimately becoming a legend, Dragons Down has a variety of map setups and scenarios, or you can even play with your own goals in mind, depending on the type of adventure you're craving. Hey Scott, welcome to the show!
Hi, Candice. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. So last year at PAX Unplugged, and I will say in PAX Unplugged 2024, because I don't know when people listen to things, that was the year that I got into adventure games. And when I was there on day one, Aldi sends me a message on Slack or a text or something, and he's just like, you should go check out Dragons Down. And I was like, okay, like I didn't really know much about it. And then I went to the Mr. B Games booth, and I ended up standing there for like probably over a half an hour because there was some guy who was a huge Magic Realm fan who was there at the same time. And I'm like hearing all about it and hearing his like enthusiasm. So I've never played Magic Realm, but it's been something I've always been curious about. And I know that it's like one of your favorite games, and that Dragons Down is inspired by Magic Realm. But, you know, I'm so curious to know, like, what initially inspired you to create Dragons Down?
The thing you just described, which is I've always wanted to play it, but I haven't, is probably the best inspiration I can describe. Magic Realm is my favorite game of all time. I've played it since I was 10 years old. I'm not going to do the math. And Magic Realm has unparalleled emergent narrative. And what that means is the Magic Realm doesn't have a story to it. The story is created by the gameplay. And I have felt for 25 years that there is this missed opportunity in modern board gaming for people to get into Magic Realm. The rule book, 150 pages of like 1970s style text. I learned it when I was 10. I learned it when I was 10 years old. I distinctly remember crying. Right. So my inspiration was if I'm being blunt, is I wanted people to feel when playing Dragons Down the way I felt as a 10-year-old having this amazing undefined journey through Western fantasy. I wanted people to have that same memory.
Cool. When you had that initial idea of like, hey, I want people to feel what Magic Realm feels like in a different package, how did you go from there to like creating your initial prototype?
I create prototypes fairly early on. I'm a visual designer. So initially it was home printed, mounted on, poster board, hand cut. Later, I used printing services to get it done. But there was a stage where My first attempt was highly derivative, I would say, of Magic Realm. And I used to run board game design contests, and nothing kills enthusiasm more than saying, "Oh, it's like Splendor in space," or
Right, right.
whatever. So I definitely wanted, and thank you, by the way, for using the words "inspired by." Um,
Sure.
Magic Realm is a separate and distinct game from Dragon's Down, right? But you clearly see the inspiration for it. Once I had the idea in my head, I start putting things on paper and seeing if visually it generally works, right? So I get
Gotcha.
there pretty quick.
Okay.
Um, Now I do most of that online. We'll
Sure.
talk about that, I'm sure, but um, yeah, 25
So,
years I've been at this.
wow. And you kind of mentioned, so were you designing other games before this one?
Yeah, my brothers and I we got into board games when I was about 7 years old. Thanks, Dad. Or as my dad says, if only I had known, while looking at my collection of quite a few games. Um, so we used to go on these long road trips, and we would sit in the back of the motorhome and design games to keep us entertained. It
That's so
wasn't until,
cool.
yeah, it wasn't until about 12 years ago, 10 years ago, that I realized I could actually get something onto the bookshelves, when I met Sean Brown of Mr. B Games. And I've
Oh, cool.
published 4 base games and 2 or 3 expansions through him of various projects of mine.
Cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's really, really awesome. So when you made that initial prototype with your poster boards and everything,
Hmm.
did you like what were you using, I guess, to represent the monsters, and
Yeah.
also like the how was the map back then?
Yeah. Squares are way easier to work with than anything else, and so you mainly because I don't want to work with scissors, and I don't want to create die cuts and things like that. So keep it simple. Don't overthink your designs. I literally cutting poster board up and throwing together some quick images via with at that time probably Microsoft Paint, even, or something like that.
Nice.
Obviously I've enhanced my skills since then. So but yeah, that's just, and scribbled stuff, by the way, too.
Right.
Like, don't spend too much time on making it look pretty, because you're going to throw away 80% of what you do anyway.
Along the past 20 years or so, 20 plus years, how much were you working on it like in the early years versus like ramping up towards getting it out?
Like everybody else that designs games, manic energy. So I certainly was not working on this full time for all that time. It was, sporadically playing with it, and I couldn't get it to work. Let's just be blunt, right? It wasn't until I had a revelation about 3 things that I was able to get it in play, where I said I could really do this, and that was probably 5 years ago.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, how much playtesting was done, and like what is your playtesting process like?
Yeah, because Dragon's Down is solo, cooperative, and competitive, and it's a freeform world. So you can choose which of those paths you pursue. And I would say, fully 50% of the people who play the game, 40% play it solo, mainly, right? So playtesting was, me in a dark basement, um, playing with my cardboard pieces. Don't I sound exciting? Um, yeah, a real hoot on a Friday night, I assure you. Um, and then
Nice.
I have a trusted group of playtesters here in Denver, and I live in Denver, Colorado, and I
Oh,
used
okay, cool.
to run a playtest group, or along with several other people, right? So I was part of that, and so that was playtested there, and then now I test almost exclusively on Tabletop Simulator. with a trusted core group of people. And even now, the next expansion for the game called Eastern Reaches, you can play that right now for free on Tabletop Simulator. And so I'm in what I consider to be the public playtesting time period, right?
Right, right, right. Because anybody could just download that mod and play.
And
Very
away they
cool.
go. Away they go. Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about the different terrain types. Again, I've never played Magic Realm, so I don't know if that's how they did it, where you can kind of mix and match that, and then you have different tokens that spawn on the board from the combination. How did that all come together?
When I started design, I am very much a theme first, mechanics later guy.
Cool.
And in this particular case, again, the inspiration being Richard Hamblin, who designed Magic Realm. He always wanted it to be modular, where the terrain in Magic Realm could be played with separately. He never got there. He didn't get support from Avalon Hill, is my understanding. So one of the key design principles in this was that the terrain packs can be played individually or together, and it all blends together. So you can, so because of that, you can play a game. You can set up a game in 5 minutes and be playing.
Yeah.
Or you could go, I'm going to take 20 minutes and I'm going to set up a pretty epic game with 5 different terrain packs that is a much larger game. So that was a pretty key leap early in the process. That kind of, here are my design philosophies, if you will, or my guiding principles.
Cool,
So that was
cool.
important.
Another thing that I think that I'd love to hear a little bit more about is the different color cubes that you place to like activate spells and weapons and everything. I think that's a really cool system. I haven't seen anything quite like that. Like, what was your inspiration for that, and like at what point did you throw that into the mix?
So great question. And that is one of the 3 key breakthroughs that allowed me to say, yep, I can make this, was the cube system. In the game, you have brown cubes that represent your, think of that as like dexterity. You have red cubes, which is your strength. And then there are 7 different colors of magic. And so depending on the class you pick, combined with the lineage of which roughly, race, like, elves, dwarves, humans, etc. You combine those 2 together, that creates your unique hero. And a dwarf cleric is very different from a human cleric because of the interesting characteristics. So by combining those 2 cards, you have a set of cubes to work with, right? And so a human thief is faster than a dwarf thief, but not as strong. And so there's some really fun combinations that you can create, right? And then when those cubes, where they're used is for 2 main purposes. Number one is in the magic system. If you have these alternate colored cubes, blue, green, etc., those are all mapped to a certain type of magic. So if I have green cubes, I'm dealing with nature magic and I can cast nature spells. If I have green and black, I probably have less cubes of the speed and might, but I then have access to both, death magic as well as nature magic. So there's these trade-offs that are really interesting.
Yeah.
And then the final piece on that is you can only play 5 cubes per round when you're in combat. So there are really difficult choices in combat. Combat in the system is very tactile, I call it, which is I literally decide how much might I'm putting into swinging my big axe. The more might I put into it, meaning the more damage, the less speed I have because I cannot play as many of the brown dexterity cubes on attack speed and maneuver. So there are really interesting choices that happen throughout combat because of that.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I love that that combination of picking your lineage and then picking your class and like all of the different different types of people you have represented on the cards is really cool. You have like options within there, that's really awesome.
There are, with the latest expansion that's coming, there are 224 different combinations of heroes you can play, and all of them are double-sided, which equates to an equipment kit. So usually it's like a heavy versus a fast kind of equipment kit.
Yeah.
So do you want to be a tank? Do you want to, or do you want to be somebody speedier? So these are, it's a thing of I had 448 different choices in many respects.
Yeah.
So usually it's not like this, like, oh my God, what do I do? It's usually pretty easy, but it
Yeah.
makes the replayability. There are people who play it where they just go, I just want a random. I'm gonna get, here's what I am today,
Yeah.
and let's see
That's
how that
cool.
goes. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really neat.
That's super cool. Yeah, I love the sandbox nature of Dragons Down, and like the fact that you can kind of have that experience, and also like with mixing and matching the terrain packs too. It's
Yeah.
yeah, lots of replay value in there, and lots of variability for the storytelling and story creation and everything.
Yeah, that was the third. So the lineage and class cards together, the cube system, and then just the emergent narrative are the three breakthroughs that I really feel make Dragons Down special. It's my pride and joy. Anything you put
Yeah.
25 years into, you kind of, it better be. Um, but so
Yeah.
you can play an open realm where you build the map ahead of time and you go out and adventure and see what's there. You can do an exploration mode where you start on a tile and you build the map as you play, and then there are many scenarios that are available that fundamentally change the rules of the game, including predefined cooperative scenarios or competitive scenarios, or that
Yeah.
really bring in unique elements. There's one where you can make a choice of your path, whether you become a demon or whether you want to get rid of the curse, kind of thing. So there's
Ooh,
really
yeah,
imagine,
yeah, cool.
and that's user created even. So there are some posted on Board Game Geek where you can download other
That's
people's
awesome.
imagination, which is really cool.
Yeah, and from I guess from the get-go, did you know that you wanted to make it competitive and cooperative?
It wasn't even a design choice per se. It was, in the end, this is a game system almost, and then you
Sure.
plug the components into it. And there
Yeah.
are absolutely times where cooperating is the best path, even if it's a temporary
Yeah,
arrangement.
yeah.
Hey, work with me to come and take down these nasties that are protecting this massive horde so we can loot it with a pre-agreement about how that's going to go down. There's an optional rule where you can play even player versus player, where you're getting a little too famous, Candice. I think I'm going to come after you. So that's an optional
No,
rule. Yeah,
no.
yeah, and that's actually really popular. Some of the best moments for me have been games like that, where you know uh, things are going swimmingly, and because I'm an experienced player, we play competitively, and then somebody
Yeah.
chops me down to size, literally. So yeah,
Nice. Well, that's cool because I think, like, I feel like, I'm newer to adventure style board games, but I feel like a lot of them are cooperative. So it's nice to have a competitive option. I only know of like a couple offhand that are like competitive, but it's nice, and it's nice to have the option too,
yeah, and
depending on who you're playing with.
the goal of the game is to collect legend points, which are collected in a variety of ways: finding great treasures, finding treasure sites, killing monsters, etc. Legend points are roughly akin to, like, Napoleon, Beethoven, Sun Tzu, right? uh,
Yeah.
they've transcended time.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
also collect fame during the game, and fame is more like the Kardashians. 200 years from now, no one will care, hopefully. And so when you die or retire,
Uh-huh.
fame converts into legend points to determine your ultimate score. If you're killed off by somebody or a monster gets you, which is much more likely, you lose half your fame. So, right, and so you can actually, you don't want to die as a Kardashian, you want to die as Napoleon, right?
Right,
So
right.
people remember you.
Yeah.
So, and people, you can even theoretically, if you were playing and you got killed, you start a new character right away. It's an open sandbox, so it's no, you can do that. But you can still win the game. A dead player or a dead hero can be the winner of the game.
They're legendary. Yeah. Yeah.
They're legendary, right? Absolutely.
Awesome. At what point did you start working on rules, like documenting and like actually writing rules?
I do that after a little ways into playtesting. Now, when I do it, when I go online, so when I publish a mod, even to my core group of playtesters. I don't have the time, probably the interest in sitting there and going, I'm going to explain all the rules to you and hope you catch it.
Right.
So I put the rules together and I publish them with the mod. So put another way, the full rules for Eastern Reaches, which will be the next expansion, they're in the mod, and and so people provide feedback in the official Discord server. They provide feedback to me about the rules specifically. Hey, this doesn't quite read quite right, and so I can then update that and get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's fantastic to be able to like get that feedback from people actually playing it, and you're like refining your rule book before you even need to like
That's
get
right.
it finish it for print, you know?
We were receiving feedback on the rule book, on play styles, on broken a treasure or two where this has got an exploit in it. We were receiving feedback like that for 6 months prior to us sending it out for publishing the core game. And I cannot thank the online community enough, both in Board Game Geek and in our Discord server, for caring so much about a game that they don't even have in their hands yet, right? The
Mm.
community is like, my paisanos,
Yeah.
I'm so in debt to these amazing humans for
That's
making the
awesome.
game what it could be. And they're still ravenous fans of the
Yeah,
game
that's
today.
so cool. That is so cool. And yeah, I'm sure like that's one of the cool things about crowdfunding that I find is that you can get players who are passionate about it involved with either playtesting or just giving some feedback that sometimes is pretty like significant, you know? But that's awesome.
A great example. There are specific rules that are in the game that were just people throwing a thought out in the Discord server and then ideating on it. Even the idea that the class cards are double sided, that a concept of equipment kits, right? Where you can, do I want to play a heavy, or do I want to play kind of a lighter,
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
armored person but faster? That was an idea from a backer who I said, that's a great idea. That's going in the game. It took me a
Yeah.
little bit to get there. I will
Yeah.
admit. I was like, oh, but it's a
Yeah.
great idea. So
Yeah, yeah. That's super cool. So I know your Discord server for Dragon's Down is very community driven and active and everything. At what point in your like design and development process did you launch that, and how was it like ramping it up to get more people
yeah,
on?
I know nothing about Discord largely, except what I learned from my son. And I created the Discord server when we launched the campaign, just as a way to get rapid feedback, because I I published the mod when I launched the core game Kickstarter campaign, so
Mhm.
people could get in and play right away. I needed a place to collect the feedback because um, where I could iterate with people very rapidly. And now it's
Yeah.
grown into, I think we have over 600 people on that
Cool.
server, and it's a great place to ideate. Board Game Geek is still my central repository of
Sure.
information,
Mhm.
and I love the conversations I have here. Um, Once you graduate to a level of rabidity about the game, then you go to the Discord server, I think, maybe. So but we host games there too, and somebody can go in there and say, I'm looking for a game, or I want to learn the game, and there will be somebody who will jump in and teach them the game.
Cool. Yeah, I know. And you offered and mentioned that to me, and that's so awesome. What's like really good, like awesome about the modern board game hobby is that there's so many people that are just like willing to jump in and help you teach something because they're excited to show you.
The only negative on it, Candice, is that as the designer of the game, fans seem to have a particular relish for killing the designer in the game. So I have to I like playing with the optional player versus player rule, and I just need to not do that anymore.
Because they're all
So
crushing you, huh?
I think so, right? There's this like joy, this fundamental joy in
I beat
saying,
the designer.
"You see that guy's name on the box? Yeah, killed him."
And he designed the game. He's the one who made
Yes,
it.
yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's so cool. Well, you already touched on some of your like key aha moments, your breakthroughs. But do you have anything that you would say was like your biggest challenge that you faced when you were designing or developing?
it was about not doing the Magic Realm community wrong. There are a lot of games out there that have claimed to be inspired by Magic Realm, and there was only either a thin veneer on it, or it was just a marketing ploy. And so, if it's really interesting, if you go to Board Game Geek, I have my very first post about the game. I forget the year, but probably 5 years ago now. And I would say there was some venom in the responses. What's interesting is a lot of those folks are actually on the server and active players and whatnot. And I am so honored and grateful that the community gave me a chance. I just said, just be patient. If it's not for you, but I
Yeah.
started publishing designer diaries, and I highly recommend that designers do that. Give people a peek into not your mind, your motives, and your soul. Because when
Mm,
people realized that I was as passionate about Magic Realm and I wouldn't insult Richard Hamlin's legacy by doing a disservice to that amazing game.
mm,
And when you come from a place like that, people naturally line up behind you, even if they don't like your game, which is totally fine, or you're upset
yeah.
about this or that. You know it's coming from a place a good place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to me, that was the biggest hurdle was my own doubts and fears that I wouldn't do it justice.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And out of curiosity, like how many people who are into Dragons Down are like hardcore Magic Realm players or used to be?
Yeah, let's talk percentages, probably a little easier. There have been people who are diehard Magic Realm players who've played Dragons Down and said, "Oh, it's a nice cousin,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I like Magic Realm better." And there are people who say Dragons Down is so much easier to get into, both in setup time, that's the route I've chosen to go. And I haven't heard of, I'd say now, I haven't heard of people who say, "Oh, this sucks and it's not even remotely close," right?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
They can see the inspiration. So as far as percentage, I'm guessing it's probably 25% are are are, are Magic Realm players, and I'd say another 50% are people who've wanted to play Magic Realm but can't get past the rules.
Oh, or just don't have it.
Right, or
But
don't
yeah,
have the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I have a couple copies of Magic Realm, and one was the one I played on when I was 10, still
Yeah.
have it. And then one I bought because I said, well, that one's gonna wear out. And you,
Yeah.
and you can't get it anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. Art and graphic design. I know there was some chatter on the internet about how you guys were using some AI art. Could you talk about how the different art and graphic design decisions were made?
So I have a long-term relationship with an artist who has worked on every one of my games, and I maintain that relationship to this day. AI art, we do use AI art in the game. Um,
Okay.
I've never hidden that fact. And maybe I'll take a quick diversion into AI art for a moment, which is um, I've never emulated a style. I have no interest in emulating a style. I'm also not interested, or I'm not trying to convince anybody. Everybody has to make that moral decision about whether it's right for them or not.
Sure.
And I respect everyone's opinion on that. That's, if you hate it and it's not for you, great. Um, for me, I'm not leveraging it to emulate, stolen art from other folks, right? Like I'm not trying to recreate Boris Vallejo or anything like that. I've used AI art to say this is what a cat looks like, right?
Hmm.
Or this is what a dragon looks like, right? That's how I've used AI art. So we used it to create a lot of our prototype stuff. We leveraged a lot of that art as the base for what became the art in the game.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and to the people that that's one objection. The other objection I think that people have to AI art is, well, it's taking money out of artists' hands. And um, I I've spent the same amount on the art for Dragon's Down and the artist as I spent for every one of my games that didn't use AI art.
Mm.
So I think there's some truth to it, but the reality is I'm not aware of too many artists that aren't leveraging AI art in one form or another. So, for example, I use Photoshop for the artwork, and I did do all the art for like the tiles and a lot of that stuff myself.
Cool.
When I do that artwork, you can use Photoshop to start it and then say, finish this for me. Where is it getting that information, right? And how do you know what was AI and not? So it's really a convoluted topic, and
Sure.
everyone's got to make that choice for themselves. And literally, I support that, regardless of what your opinion is.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right. So, when and how did you come up with the name Dragons Down?
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's no flavor text in the game whatsoever. Let's start with that statement. There was flavor text in the game at one point. So the idea in my head for the game as a setting was there's a land that was devastated by dragons 200 years ago, and civilization is slowly starting to creep back in. And there's a village, the village of Dragons Down, and that's one of the civilization locations in the game. And it represented the place where the dragons had come down from the sky and just trashed civilization. So that was the core aspect. Over time, I stripped away a lot of that. Like right now in the game, it's called Village. Right. Because I realized that by saying it's Village of Dragons Down, I was putting my own journey into the game. And that's not the goal of the game. Emergent narrative is that it awakens for you and whatever you perceive.
Right. Whoever's playing the game.
I want them to go, nope, there are priests in a sanctuary. Are they careful guardians of the forest, or are they evil human sacrificers? That depends on the game.
Yeah.
And there are various missions in the game that might hint at what they are, but it's up to you to decide. If you're playing a hero and you slaughter the priest, well, let's hope they were human sacrificers and not that you're the human sacrificer, for example. Which you can do in the game. It's that much of a sandbox, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. Like I love, it's like I love board games out there that maybe like have different characters and they give them names and everything, because that's fun too. But I love the creative aspect of picking, just from minimal stats and pictures and coming up with what you are perceiving that you're dealing with in your game.
Yeah, and one of the things we did that I'm really happy about is you can buy titles from the various natives, and those titles have specific names. You're the Slayer Lord, or you're the the Protector of the Sanctuary. There are missions, and they all have a title on it. So you're the Centaur Scourge, or you're the Spider Smiter, and all these things. And the point is as you're finishing these and getting them, you put them near your board, and at the end of the game, you can read off your titles and the monsters you've killed, almost like the Kim Jong Il's titles in North Korea, where he's got like 15 titles behind the president, right? So you can just tell the story of your hero merely by reading off the cards.
Well, and speaking of telling the story, I love that you include a book so that you can kind of track what's happening each round of the game. That's a cool idea.
I still have the player sheets from when I played Magic Realm as a 10-year-old. I can go back and look at it, and such and such. In 1977, I played this game, and here's what happened. And so I wanted that to be a part of the experience for players who want to do it. And every once in a while, people will publish a photo of their player record with adventures and monsters they killed and titles they got. And I just think that's cool. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Don't need to do it, but it's fun.
Yeah. I love that. And I play a lot of historical games and war games too. And a lot of people will do that. They'll kind of do their battle report or whatever and kind of tell the story of what happens.
Yes, absolutely.
That's neat. How did you know, or I guess when and how did you know that the game was ready to be launched on crowdfunding?
All my games have been published through Sean Brown of Mr. B Games. Let's start with that statement. And we have a rule: when it's ready. and we have delayed Kickstarters for months. I don't launch until the rule book is ready.
Mm.
I'm not and then afterwards, we're going to develop the rule book. I'll make tweaks, I'll make some edits and clarifications based on feedback, but the rules are in place. The game's ready to go. I have a tabletop simulator mod where when I launch the Kickstarter, people can go try it for free before they give me $1 or a ducat or whatever is your currency. I want people to know what they're getting if they should so choose. Go on Tabletop Simulator, play it for free. Dragons Down is free. Natives and
Yeah.
Legends is free. Desolation is free on all the expansions. Eastern
Yeah.
Reaches coming
See if
soon.
it's something for you, right?
That's right. Because what I
Yeah.
don't want is buyer's regret. My mission here was never to get rich, because as you know, Candice, you don't get rich in board games. But
Yeah.
my goal was to touch hearts a little bit, have people experience that same thrill I had as a 10-year-old. If somebody buys a game and then they go, wasn't for me, makes me sad.
Yeah. So you like to get it all out there so that people can see if they want to, if it's something for them. And the fact that you have the Discord server with people willing to teach and help is really, really cool.
Yep. Agreed.
Do you have any advice for someone out there who might have a favorite game that's old and like out of print, hard to find, hard for people to get, but they're so passionate about like some aspect of it or the way they feel playing it? Do you have any advice for someone who might be trying to design a game like that?
Yeah. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Start with that statement.
Yes.
Pursue something that captures your soul, because if you're in it for the money, that's not going to get you. That's the wrong goal, right? And always do right by your material. I would say the best decision I made was creating the BGG page for the game, said what I was trying to do, started sharing designer diaries, and then I started getting both positive and constructive feedback on what I was trying to do, which was invaluable. And there were parts, if you read the designer diaries and you start at one, you'll find things that didn't make it into the game and that were simplified. And in the end, simplification was absolutely the key here. Have new ideas. Again, I really appreciate you using the phrase "inspired by."
Sure.
Don't do a shot-for-shot remake, right? Instead, be motivated by that theme and what have that mission you're trying to get. I wanted people to feel like I did as a 10-year-old.
Yeah. I think that's really sound advice, especially creating the designer diaries, because like that's something I love, and it actually inspired me to create this show, is that designers write designer diaries and like share that whole process. But I never thought of it as, hey, like this is a tool to kind of get feedback, find your audience and everything like that. That's really cool.
Yep. It ferreted out great questions, man. People were posting questions that was like, wow, that's the way they read that. Okay. That's a great point, and I need to make sure that's clarified as to why it is this way, or maybe it's not the right thing. And having that disconnect, having an objective opinion versus a subjective opinion about your material as well. I've abandoned, like I said, 80% of the ideas I had are on the trash heap right now.
Yeah, sure. Wow. Cool. Well, Scott, it has been awesome talking to you and hearing, all the work and time you put into Dragons Down. I'm certainly enjoying it, and I'm excited to play it more. I know you have some expansions for it that are out, maybe that were part of the first Kickstarter, but can you talk about what's in those and like what's coming down the pike for Dragons Down?
Yeah. So the core game includes 3 terrain packs and is fully functional. Is great. 2 more terrain packs coming in expansion called Desolation, currently sold out. We did Natives and Legends, which introduces 2 main concepts. It introduces a more robust system of humanity and civilization, such that they both can work against you as well as for you. Um, that part, and then legends, which is this concept of really epic treasures, so you can find like game-changing things.
Cool.
I am thrilled to say that we did a second Kickstarter campaign, and little humble brag here. That's on a boat coming from China as we speak, and we're delivering it 2 months early.
Wow, that's
Um,
cool.
and we're eating the tariff costs to ensure that we're doing right by the source material and our fans. And we'll make it up on the back end. We'll be launching later this year a third expansion called Eastern Reaches, which introduces the concepts of adventuring in ancient Egypt and the Middle East, as well as a robust river system for the game,
Cool.
which is really exciting. And again, you can play that on Tabletop Simulator right now.
Awesome, awesome. So that's coming to crowdfunding later this year. And I'm assuming you probably have other ideas that are going to trickle out for this game.
The thing that's keeping me up at night is I keep ideating on porting the system to a science fiction style. There'd be changes for sure in the system, but I picture, can you imagine walking down the corridors of the Nostromo, fighting aliens, or probably more exciting is the idea of different planets that have different rule sets and unique alien life, which really is pretty cool. And I've been ideating on that some.
That would be cool. Yeah, because I don't know of many like sci-fi adventure games, let alone a sandbox sci-fi game.
My guess is in a sci-fi game, you wouldn't want to be, your goal isn't to be legendary. So I gotta probably be, maybe.
Reframe, maybe.
I gotta think about that a little bit. So that part, I got some work to do, but that's something that's been bouncing around the noggin for a while.
Cool. Well, Scott, thanks again so much. It has been wonderful talking to you. I'm glad we finally got to do this. I know we've been talking about it all year.
Yeah, this is great. I really appreciate you making the time for me.
Thank you all for tuning in to Cardboard Creations. Hopefully it's been as inspiring and fascinating for you as it has been for me. And remember, the only way to get something done is to start doing it. Boom.